Good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday Mull for Wednesday, the 11th of February. Reading through Paul's letter to the Romans with McShane, we read chapter 14 today, where Paul looks at differences of opinion or divisions in the church, saying some people eat meat, other people say you can't, who's right? And ultimately he says it's between them and God, and it's not for us to judge someone else. They stand before the master, not before us. And so they're answerable to God, not to us. And likewise, we're answerable to God, not to them. And so we need to make sure that we're comfortable in ourselves, that before God, we're doing the right thing. In verse 5, he says, one person considers one day more sacred than another. Another considers every day alike. Each of them should be fully convinced in their own mind. And in the early church, there were the Jewish believers who probably still believed that the Jewish festivals were essential. And Paul says, for them it is. The Gentiles that had come into faith, for them it wasn't. And neither of them was right, but they each had their own conscience answerable to God. And Paul stresses that's what you need to look at. In verse 13, he then continues, therefore, let us stop passing judgment on one another. Instead, make up your mind not to put any stumbling block in the way of a brother or sister. Indeed, in verse 90, let us therefore make every effort to do what leads to peace and mutual edification. So he's saying we shouldn't be contentious. We shouldn't generate fights by what we believe. Instead, we should be supporting and encouraging and edifying, building one another up. And he makes a point, if my freedom causes my brother or sister to stumble, then it's not loving to exercise my freedom. Far better for me to refrain so that they can stand in the faith. And it's a challenge we face. And in today's world, where anyone that disagrees with anyone else is considered to be against them. If you disagree with me, then you're my enemy, then you're judging me, then you're putting me down, and there's all sorts of issues. And Paul's saying, no, if you disagree, you disagree. You're not answerable to one another, you're answerable to God. And that's the kind of thing we need to be working towards. As the old saying goes, in essentials, unity. So the essentials of the faith, the tenets of the creed. And if somebody doesn't believe that Jesus is the Son of God, then they fall outside of the faith because they don't agree on the essentials. On the essentials, unity. On inessentials, liberty. You're free to differ when things that aren't essential. Should you wear robes in church? Should you sing hymns or just the Psalms? What instruments should you use? How do you feast? How do you fast? All those kind of issues are not essential. They're important because they're part of the church's life, but they're not essential. Therefore, liberty. Let other people do what they want, because as Paul says, you need to be convinced in your own mind because you're answerable to God. And that's in essentials, unity, in non-essentials, liberty, in all things, charity. Whatever we do, we need to do in love. In that way, we maintain the body of Christ. So be encouraged to answer to God. Believe what you want to. Allow other people to differ from you, and know that we're still part of his family. Be blessed.